Hello, gentle marketers. Welcome to episode 79 of the Gentle Business Revolution podcast, the show where we talk about marketing your business by disrupting the current marketing paradigm and changing it to a gentler approach, one that's based on empathy and kindness. I'm Sarah Croce. As you know by now, I'm the host here. You know that you're in the right place if you are a heart-centered entrepreneur or change maker who is looking for a better way to market your business, one that's aligned with your values. Or you might also be a marketing impact pioneer. So that's someone working in marketing for an organization, and you're just curious about different ways to connect with your people. How are you doing? I hope you enjoyed the special week that was all about kindness. And unfortunately, today's already the last day of the Worldwide Random Acts of Kindness Week. And if you're just joining us today, make sure you hit subscribe on the podcast and then go back and binge listen to all the previous episodes this week. We had some really beautiful conversations on how to bring more kindness and empathy to the business world. Also, as you know, these episodes are sponsored by the Gentle Marketing Revolution book that's now available on Amazon. So you can get it on Amazon directly. Just look for the Gentle Marketing Revolution, or you can go to thegentlemarketingrevolution.com/book. That's also the page to go back to download all your beautiful resources, exercises, and a bunch of other goodies. Now, if you already have your copy and maybe already read it, I'd love to hear from you. You can go over to sarahsenecroce.com/ask and record a quick audio and just kind of let me know how it resonated with you, if there's anything special that stood out to you, or just in general, how it made you feel. I'd love to hear from you. Besides always sharing 2 random acts of kindness on these special episodes around kindness, I'm also giving away a year-long membership to the Gentle Business Circle. That's our community of gentle marketers where we discuss this new way of doing marketing and business on a monthly community call. The giveaway is an act of kindness of one of the participants of the Kickstarter that I hosted earlier, actually late to 2020. So some people chose the Gentle Business Circle reward without actually needing the membership. So they're friends and family. And when I asked them, they happily offered to have me use their membership as a giveaway during this week. So make sure you listen till the end of this episode to find out how to apply for a free membership for the full year to the Gentle Business Circle. So on today's episode, we focus on kindness and its impact on mental health. For this conversation, I have invited Irene Jade Karthik from the Gentle Project. Irene is the founder of the Gentle Project All About Kindness initiative. The project's objective is to advocate, engage, and amplify the voice of kindness at workplaces and communities. As part of the project, she hosts a podcast which brings stories and perspectives around kindness. She's extremely passionate about kindness and its role in building a better tomorrow. Irene has spent 17 years working for global firms in management roles, and she is currently based in London and is a self-employed business consultant. And one more thing, Irene really walks her talk. She shared with me that last year she diverted a part of her income towards small projects such as a laptop for a juvenile home, sponsored one-day meal for 750 children back in India, local food bank donations, sponsored sanitary products for underprivileged, and many more. So let's talk to Irene. Good morning, Irene. How are you?
Good morning, Sarah. I'm doing well. How about you?
Yeah, not so bad, not so bad. It's a rainy, yucky day in Switzerland. And it's just, we're still obviously recording this during the extended lockdown, the 2020 that never ended, it seems like. And so some days are better than others. Let's just say that. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. That's kind of the highlight of my day. No, that's not true. I just got a box of British chocolates this morning from a podcast host where I was a guest on yesterday. And I don't know if you ever had those, but they have these bubbly things inside. And so they pop in your mouth. And it's like this amazing experience. Like, we remember, maybe you remember these candy we used to have where they it's like some kind of powder and then it pops in your mouth. And so I'm having this chocolate and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like the most excitement I've had in weeks. So I'm in a good mood because of the chocolates.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, I do remember those candy that pops in your mouth,
Right.
It's
So
such a familiar feeling.
yeah. So now they have an adult version in the form of truffles. So,
Oh,
anyway, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, as you know, it's the Random Acts of Kindness Week. And really, we're talking about kindness and gentleness in business. And you had me on your show called the Gentle Project Initiative. And so I thought, well, that would be a great way to kind of get you on to my show because you're also focusing on gentleness. And so I'd love for you to kind of tell us why you started that Gentle project and how all that came together, what motivated you.
sure. I mean, I'm excited to talk about kindness, and I'm so glad that you made time to come on my show and we share the word gentle among us. So, the Gentle Project, all about kindness initiative, it was an idea that it was there in me all along while I was working for a corporate.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the idea, if I actually reflect on it, the idea goes back to my childhood, I believe, because my parents were very kind and I was brought up in a very kind environment. And I've seen them kind of conduct acts of kindness in the daily lives. And then when I transitioned to the adult world and started working for a corporate, I saw that, yeah, I mean, people were kind, but I felt people were more nice. You know, the bridge between nice and kindness. They were nice, they were polite, but somehow hesitated when it came to kindness. Not everybody, probably, one in 20 or one in 30 people, you would see people actually being kind at workplace. And I thought that was something that intrigued me, and I was kind of trying to think what can be done to normalize kindness at workplaces. And that was an idea that, it kind of, then we transitioned to a period where social media became active, and there was so much of dissonance among, the online world. We see a lot of, news around things that are not going well, things that are, you know ugly. So much of strife that we get to hear. But when you talk about kindness or kind acts, that voice is still not amplified. And it's not that there isn't enough kindness. I believe that there is a lot of kindness, and all of us have that innate kindness that we can carry out. But then I thought this project should amplify the voice of kindness, and that's how it came to being.
I love that. And what I wrote down is this idea that to be nice is not the same thing as to be kind. It's interesting. I don't think that ever came up. And so I really want to dig a bit deeper. To you, what is the difference between being nice and being kind?
Absolutely. I think nice, the way I would define is nice is all of us are nice. We are polite, we have manners, we are courteous, respectful. But kindness is showing that you care, taking that action. You go one step and you take an action, and it can be a verbal, a non-verbal action, and you carry out a act of kindness, open somebody's, just go and pick up somebody's grocery, an old citizen who's kind of walking the street. That is kindness. But nice is probably, yeah, you would be just polite, and you would not take that effort to go and kind of do your extra bit for somebody. Or even, it can be an animal, it can be, your neighbor, your colleague at workplaces. For example, you see a colleague that probably, needs some rest. The person's not feeling well. You might go walk up to that person and say that, okay, hey, you are not feeling well, are you fine? But you might hesitate to say that, okay, is there something that I can do for you, can I cover for you? That we don't see in everybody. I'm not sure if I answered your question properly, but
no, totally. So really, what it means, like, to be nice is kind of just reacting in a nice way, where because we've been taught to be polite and answer politely and just be nice, right? Where kindness sounds like the way you're describing it is more of a proactive action. So you are taking responsibility and yeah, offering kindness, where niceness is not really being offered. It's just kind of this, we're in this trance of that's just how we've been brought up, to be nice and polite. Is that right?
yes. And kindness, of course, it has the layer of compassion built in it.
Yeah.
Without compassion and empathy, probably you will not take an action. So that is one part of what kindness is. And if you were to kind of dig further, I was reading a very interesting research study that is being done on kindness. And in that paper, they say that, they have divided kindness into three different categories. One is the distinct feeling of kindness, that, okay, you feel that you need to take some action, you go and help somebody. Then the second part is the pro-social aspect of kindness, where, as a community, you come together, you do something about for somebody who's kind of going through something in the community. And it can be just the effort, it can be volunteering, it can be just going and spending time at an care home. It can be those aspects. And then there is the altruism aspect, where you actually donate money, or your earnings. So I found that very interesting.
That is interesting. Do you think you can just pick one? Because what came up is like, well, the last one is kind of an easy way out. If you have money, a lot of money, like you see kind of this companies doing that, where it's like, oh yeah, we're giving 10% of our earnings, but then you look at the way they treat their employees, and the kindness doesn't show up there. So is there a risk to kind of buy kindness?
Absolutely. I mean, personally, I believe that donating, yes, that is the easy way out. I mean, and that's another part of kindness, the whole kindness revolution, that I'm little wary about. The whole aspect of, I would say, commercialization to a certain extent, because you see so many people, or there are so many organizations where people just go and donate money, but they might or might not really, be active in the community or a social. But in my view, uh, kindness where you are actually expending time and energy, that really will make a huge difference in people's life. Yeah, of course, money is important, and there are a lot of causes that people can help. But if somebody kind of, takes that time out and donates their effort, that makes a difference. And in companies specifically, I feel there's a contradiction somewhere, because, yeah, you can always have policies, and you can have a branch. The companies normally have the CSRs where they go and donate. They have drives where you go and volunteer, and then you donate a portion of the earnings. But what I feel is missing is that innate ability to connect with each other as employees, as colleagues. That needs to be nurtured. I mean, somewhere that kind of gets diluted because, yeah, workplaces, there are certain rules and there's some sort of hygiene that one needs to follow. But how do you get that humanness in those connections? And I feel that kindness can be that uh, fabric that kind of weaves everything together.
Yeah, I think it's, we're not saying donating money is not good. Obviously, it is good because money is always needed. We know that. But in a way, it reminds me also that the idea of running a gentle business focuses on the three wins, which is, yourself, your customer, and the world. And so, yes, there's money involved, but it also, if you're really applying that, you will also be able to generate more time for yourself because you're not always working towards making more and more and more and more money that you can then donate. So, in a way, maybe if we're all applying the gentle business approach, then we actually can carve out more time also that we can then invest back into kindness and giving and volunteering and all of that.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. I just want to kind of throw out a caution there. I am definitely, people, if they are able to donate, definitely do that. But yeah, but what you said is that how do you kind of have the gentle business going on? So in companies, and I think we see that in the B corporations that are coming
Yeah.
up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. Yeah, I was on a call yesterday with a young millennial, and she's the head of marketing for a startup company, and she's like, oh, I apologize, I have my 3-month-old baby here with me, and so it was just like, it gave me a glimpse of what business is going to look like in a few years from now, that it's okay to have life and business and all of this happening together. And so I think the minute we start to feel less like we're always have to strive towards making more and more money, then I think there will be also more time to apply towards kindness and towards volunteering and what you're saying kindness really is. Kindness is not defined by just giving money. So where did you did all this research, where did you really see this need for kindness? Clearly, you coming from the corporate experience, I think that's where you were mentioning this. How did you notice this, like in daily corporate life?
Yes, I noticed it in my corporate life, and especially with the verbal and non-verbal behaviors of people around me. Because the whole corporate scenario where we are so cutthroat, the aggressiveness in business that is required to generate profits. It all started with this person named Frederick Taylor, who kind of got this whole rigor to the corporate that, okay, you have to be productive, you have to be, managers have to be on top of people, you kind of put them on a leash. And so I think that is something that he started. And then we kind of adapted, all the corporates around the world adopted this whole concept of being putting employees on a leash and kind of trying to ensure that you get the productive hours and productivity out of them to generate more profits. But in the whole process, I feel somewhere we kind of forgot that at the end of the day, everybody's a human being and everybody will make certain mistakes. There will be issues that will people will be facing in the personal lives, in professional lives. So somewhere in that pursuit of profits, I felt that we were missing the point. And it's not that all these people who work at corporates are bad. Everybody is inherently, I believe that all of us are kind, but we don't have that courage, or there are a lot of barriers that are there in corporate that don't allow us to exercise the kindness. So that's where I felt that there was a need for kindness, and that it was missing there.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So it feels like this all started with one kind of framework, I guess, that
Yes.
what was his name? I didn't get his name, and I didn't
Yeah,
know about it.
his name was Frederick Taylor.
Okay. So he kind of defined the way a business should be working, and this is how corporates are supposed to be running, and it's all focused towards more and more profits, right? And so that's where everybody followed suit. And in a way, what this image I see is everybody started to wear these certain masks because it just felt like we had to disengage from our human beings in order to become like, these robots that keep producing more.
Yes. So he was the man. He was the first management scientist, in fact. And we've got good things, from him. The whole framework processes can be attributed to him. But yes, in that whole process, somewhere we wear masks, and I think that is slowly starting to change. We have a lot of agenda, like the World Economic Forum agenda, which is focused on making better workplaces, improving the employee experiences. So right now we are at that cusp of changing things, but I think by the time in the next couple of years, we will see more of people actually branching out of corporates. We'll see that there are a lot of more people who work by themselves as self-employed, the freelance economy. So I think the whole dynamics will change. So I believe that corporates are also realizing that it is time to change now.
I'm wondering if they are really realizing. My husband is still in a corporate job, and man, it doesn't feel like they are realizing anything. It just feels like they're 10 years behind. And unfortunately, a lot of employees, if they don't have some kind of connection to the outside world, they just still accept that as being normal. That's just the way it is, right? And so I can only really hope that you're right, and I believe so too. That eventually more and more people are gonna just not want to work in a corporate environment anymore. Especially if you look at the younger generation, the millennials, that's not what they want. And so it will be interesting to see which corporations will adapt and really change, and which ones will just kind of basically crumble. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how that all plays out. The other thing that we wanted to talk about today is kind of this topic of mental health, because right now, we're in this global pandemic. Things have really radically changed also for employees. So everybody's in home office. And so how do you think kindness plays a role in this idea of mental health? Where are we heading, and how does kindness play a role in that?
Yes, I mean, and that's a very interesting question that you asked. Uh, Kindness definitely, I believe, can play a huge role in the mental health crisis that we are in, and I think we are going to face as well. So, in terms of mental health statistics, as of now, as per the last update that I had read about 13% of the world population faces some kind of mental health challenges. But with the pandemic, this is expected to rise because of the fact that a lot of people have been in isolation, they have been lonely, and so that is one area where, governments are actively engaged, and I think companies are also starting to invest more meaningfully, but that is a very small percentage of companies who are actually thinking beyond technology for mental health. So in terms of kindness, I think kindness gives you the ability uh, to accept, to be compassionate, to be tolerant, and to be kind of, just be there for people. And all mental health issues, or people who kind of deal with mental health issues, they need support from the families, from the friends, and also from the community. I think that's where kindness can play a key role, because if all of us have that, ability to extend ourselves and show up for our colleagues or our friends, or for the society, even the communities that we stay in, that can make a difference. Because there are different layers. So first of all, you are non-judgmental about kindness teaches you to be non-judgmental about some, people or the situations. Then you have empathy, then you have the understanding of just the problem that the particular individual might be facing. So that's where I feel that kindness can help act as anchor, a support anchor for the community and for the people who go through challenges, mental health challenges.
How do you think these corporations, where right now, as I said earlier, it really still feels like your personal life and your business life or your career are completely separate? How are they gonna, make that bridge between where before we just kind of left our personal life at the door and you're like, okay, I'm not talking anything personal. Maybe we can ask about my kids, but that's about it. And, don't even think about asking about mental health. How are we going to make that bridge? It seems like there's like this huge abyss between where we are still now, a lot of corporations are, a lot of businesses are, and where we want to go. So how do we get there?
Yes, I think there is a huge abyss. I mean, I agree. I think the first step is that people need to acknowledge that we are dysfunctional. Companies, the cultures, they are dysfunctional, and they have to. I think the first step is acceptance of the problem, that, okay, this is something that they need to change. The second step would be, making the environment, focusing on the environment, training the people. But again, training, when I say training, it is more of not the typical training that happens in companies where you go and sit for 8 hours, get, you have slideshows and it talks about how do you become more emotional intelligence.
It's like 7 steps to become emotionally.
Yes, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm thinking that in companies they should identify. It's like having core groups of people who actually walk the talk. It's this beautiful idea of the Pygmalion effect, which is there, where you kind of you expect. So it's like projecting. You project that you know people are going to be kind, and that's what managers need to do. They first of all they need to walk the talk, as well as they should kind of exude that confidence that, okay, my team is going to be it's a kind team, and they just enable that environment. So there have to be pockets of these change that happen in companies, and that kind of it can spread. And that's how cultures can be kind of tweaked, because at the end of the day, we as human beings, we are very good at mirroring. So if a company invests deeply into identifying the change agents, people who can actually walk the talk, and also enabling through policies, through ensuring that there is flexibility, because right now we most of the people are working from home, there will be multiple demands. Giving that flexibility to people to kind of manage their work along with their home chores, and also having that understanding, okay, hey, the world is not going to end if there's something that doesn't get delivered in 1 hour. Give that liberty and that extension to people to just be themselves and to accept what is going on. And as we are going to change, the policies of companies also will need to be tweaked, because most of the companies have very standard policies that, okay, if this is not working, this is what you need to do. So there is that element of humanness that has to come into policy, because not everything cannot be fixed, or you cannot follow everything to the rule.
It sounds very much to me like it's going to be a bottom up kind of change. So, meaning it's the people who bring in the change, and then the change works its way up to the leadership and then the policies, right? Where before, the policies were first, kind of the system, the process was the main thing, and then it was applied to everybody from top to bottom level. So it feels like right now we're saying, yes, some leaders obviously, but they don't have to be like the big CEOs. They can be like group leaders, or in my book I talk about the marketing impact pioneers. So these are CMOs, marketing directors or leaders who feel that there needs to be a different way to market, and they will then bring in this change. And it feels like the same is true for kindness. The same is true for, a different way of leading teams and addressing mental health. So this will come in not from the top, because maybe, or in some companies, maybe the leader, the CEO is open to this, but it will definitely come in from the people and not from the policies first, right?
Yes, I mean, that is that is one thing that I've noticed during my working life, that a lot of times when we are trying to drive change from the top down approach, yes, of course leaders will have to kind of live up to the values and walk the talk. But what happens is that flow of communication or flow of change kind of gets disrupted at the middle layer, because if it is not going to reach the people who are at the ground, that's where the whole disconnect is. That, okay, the leader says that, okay, this is something that we are going to change, but the people who are actually working in teams, in different departments, they probably don't see that change in action. So that is where there's a lot of disconnect. So I think changes like this have to happen at the ground level, and it has to happen through the middle layer of management, the managers, the team leads, depending on what structures company have. And of course the top leaders will need to walk the talk and ensure then kind of the whole change becomes more coherent.
Yeah. And earlier you mentioned confidence. I think it really comes down to daring to, bring more of that into companies as well. Because right now, if you're still, if some of the listeners are working in a company where it doesn't feel like a kind environment, and it still feels like this old paradigm where it's all about profit, then it can be very scary to stand up and say, well, I'd like to, suggest something different and new, and let's, bring in more kindness. So it really has to do with, giving yourself permission and having the confidence to bring forward this new and different approach.
Absolutely. And I think that is where I am, Gentle Project. One of the main objectives is to just start the dialogue around kindness. There are very few, probably, I would say about 50 to 100 people in the entire global scenario who are actually advocating, or they have platforms which only speak about kindness. So I think that voice needs to be amplified, and that's how it'll reach the people who need to make these changes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about first the awareness, and then opening that dialogue, and surrounding yourself with more people who think alike. Listening to your podcast, listening to my podcast, and finding other podcasts that really gives you this confidence and courage to say, I'm not alone wanting this change. It is time now to bring more of this to the business world, and of course also, to entrepreneurship and marketing, since that's kind of what we're talking about here on this podcast. What are some of the ways, to kind of wrap up, Irene, for people to adopt more kindness as a way of life? So we talked a lot about business, but also just in general as a way of life. What would you say? Where to begin?
I think the first thing is being kind to oneself. uh, all of us are going through a very difficult period of our lives. Our lives have changed. So it is very important that one is compassionate and empathetic towards oneself. And then you kind of move on to find areas where you can contribute. And it can be everyday things. It can be, kindness to your friends, to your colleague, to, people, to your neighbor. And it can be just going and helping out somebody, or offering to do a grocery run during these times of lockdown. It can be just I what I believe is that you have to find your way of imbibing kindness into your life. What makes you happy? So for me, I love children. So that is one area where I feel that I want to do more, and I want to be of use for senior citizens. So that is mine. So what is yours? You kind of need to identify, and then take action. And one thing is that there is no pressure that you have to just go and make a donation right away, or just do it right away. Just find some time, mark a day in your calendar, based on how busy or free you are, where you spend an hour. Right now, a good thing would be just set up a free time. For example, for freelancers, I know a lot of people are working from home. So find these communities where you offer your 1 hour in a week, where people can reach out to you and you have a conversation, because everybody needs somebody to kind of listen in, and it's your way of connecting. So one is everyday acts. The second is you know going that extra mile, and actually carrying out an act. Then being there for people emotionally, that is one way of kindness. The non-verbal is just smile, hold a door, small random acts of kindness. And then it is the core kindness, where you actually go out and just spend all your, like, you invest your time, energy, as well as money, and carry out something.
Yeah. And I want to mention the Random Acts of Kindness workplace calendar. Again, I don't know if you have seen that, but the randomactsofkindness.org website, they have this amazing workplace calendar for the whole year with different ideas of small random acts of kindness. And they do really include yourself. So kindness towards yourself, towards your colleagues, your family, but also towards the planet. So just, these random acts of kindness, like turning off the lights when you're not in the room. It just, all of these combined, they make you feel good. So it's not just that you're making other people feel good, you feel better as well, right? So it really also has, I'm sure there's been studies on that. You would know better than I, that being kind has an effect on mental health because you feel better.
Absolutely. I mean, being kind affects your health in particular. It reduces your stress level. It is good for your heart. And there are studies that say that, both the receiver and the giver of kindness, they both actually show kind of the how do you say, the emotional intensity or the emotional experience that one goes through while carrying out the act actually impacts the brain. Yeah. And it gives out the happy hormones. Yeah. So that's something that is already proven, and it actually helps your well-being. And again, kindness for the environment, as Sarah said. And right now, the top most important act of kindness that we can do is wash our hands and wear a mask.
Yeah, that's so true. I think that's a really good place to come full circle. Like, don't forget to wash your hands. And again, that's not just kindness toward yourself, it's kindness for the community as well. So
yes. And there are studies that actually have, I was going through it recently, and those are the top acts of kindness that people can do currently, kind of help people in the community. Those are some of the important acts that we can do. And there's also an organization called kindness.org, which is a kindness lab. And they also have a community where actually you can register and be a part of the whole movement along Excellent. With random acts.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the show notes for that as well. And I also want you to share where people can connect with you and where they find the Gentle Project.
I'm available on LinkedIn, and the Gentle Project, we have a website. It is called thegentleproject.io. And we also have the podcast where I'm working on the season 3 that is going to come out next week. And I have an Instagram handle, but I'm quite bad at that. But the website and LinkedIn is a good place to reach.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having this wonderful conversation with me, Irene. It's been an absolute delight. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Sarah. It was a delight to be here.
Yes, mental health will be a big theme as we come out of this global pandemic. I really think so. So be kind to yourself and be kind to others. And of course, reach out to professional help when needed. Check out Irene's website, thegentleproject.io, and her podcast is The Gentle Project. You'll also find all the links at sarahsenacroce.com/GBR79. 3 more things before you leave. I mentioned it several times. This episode and all the others during this week are sponsored by the Gentle Marketing Revolution book that's officially been released on Wednesday on the International Random Acts of Kindness Day. If anything you heard this week or really during these past 1.5 years resonates with you, I'd love for you to get the book over at Amazon.com or at thegentlemarketingrevolution.com/book. Also, every day this week, I'm sharing 2 random acts of kindness ideas that you could try out. They are from the randomactsofkindness.org workplace calendar, which you find on the randomactsofkindness.org website. It's a month-by-month calendar with daily inspirations to be more kind in the workplace. So, also meaning in business, right? So, today's random acts of kindness are, first, use today to do something relaxing. And second, tackle a challenge that has kept you procrastinating for too long. Finally, in order to apply for the free year-long Gentle Business Circle membership, please leave me a voice message at sarahzenacroce.com/ask and tell me why you'd like to join the circle and why you'd like to be considered. I'm giving away 1 free membership each day, and the first message I'll get wins. Don't forget to leave me your name and email so I can contact you. Thanks so much for tuning in today and this whole week, really. You'll find the show notes with all the links at sarahzenacroce.com/GBR79. Next week, I'm taking a break, giving you some time to catch up with all the episodes of this week, if you haven't heard them yet. But I'll be back on March 6th with a musing around this idea of purpose washing, or the act of using purpose as a profit-boosting activity. So until then, be well. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. Take care.